welcome, Jason, and thank you for joining us and telling us a little bit more about the track that you teach here at UCR. That for you is law. So let's kick it off. Can you tell us a little bit about the courses in the law track?
Oh, sure, absolutely. The first year course is really an introductory course that not only gives students their first taste of legal principles, but it also shows immediately the connections with society and sort of philosophical perspectives. But then from there it branches into a few different directions that could either focus on international law, human rights law, or more domestic law with private law and criminal law. There's definitely within the law track many sort of sub-tracks that students can pursue. Within the law track, we actually cover the whole field then. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, the big ideas of principles of justice and human rights are covered, and this is usually connected to public international law and how countries have obligations and we as individuals have rights and obligations. On the other side of it, this is actually my area of expertise, would be private law. And private law deals less with states and big issues of rights and human rights, more so with relationships that we have with each other every day. So the kind of agreements we enter into when we accidentally or intentionally injure someone, what kind of, how's that resolved, what kind of compensation is there? And then also, of course, clearly there's criminal law, so we deal with when people violate criminal law and have to have some sort of penalty and look at the philosophies behind that area of law and punishment. And I think to round it out, it's also notable that we do have a course dedicated to European Union law, because that's an always growing field of importance. And if the events of the last year haven't shown that, coordination at the European level is inevitable. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting for students to get a really good understanding from the legal side of something that usually is only portrayed through sort of the political developments of European Union sort of issues.
Right. So within the law track, clearly students can get a broad scope of different legal fields and really find what it is they're passionate about, it seems. So zooming in a little bit then, looking at the courses, what is it that students can expect from the courses? Are there particular projects you do, or research opportunities, or internships, or I don't know?
It's an interesting question we discuss as a track, so the different instructors in the track. Mm-hmm. We have sort of very experienced full professors as well as newer, younger, sort of energetic assistant professors. And everyone brings a particular perspective or talent to the courses they teach, but we do communicate a lot and try to coordinate a bit our activities. So across the track, it may not be in every course, but typically there'll be what you could consider sort of normal assignments. It might be about reading law or making a brief of an issue and how the law solves an issue, or a case brief about a court decision, very basic legal reasoning types of assignments. Beyond that, there are practical exercises, things like mock trials, simulations, a legal aid clinic for criminal law, or mediation for private law or administrative law. And so we try to integrate these practical components as well, these simulations, but through that, then students still are developing and practicing their legal reasoning and writing skills. And then in addition to that, of course, there's always exams, but we also have a variety of exams. So some exams are really applying your knowledge to hypothetical cases. Others could be interesting but complex multiple choice problems. We've even been experimenting with collaborative exams where students can sit and work on an exam together in a sort of controlled environment. And so the assessment in the law courses goes well beyond the very traditional law school of listening to an instructor talk for hours and then you write an exam. It's much more continuous interactive assessment in the way that we try to hit all the sort of advantages, strengths, and weaknesses of students, but also cover all of the legal skills that we're trying to teach in the courses too.
Right. So beyond having the opportunity to try different fields, there's a lot of skill building, it seems, in the courses.
Yeah, well, when we think of university study, we think of something usually or often that's quite research-oriented, maybe academic, theoretical, and of course there's a lot of that there too. We look at the philosophy behind the law, the justifications behind law, and best practices, but we do try to give it a very practical component, and it's something we can simulate in the course as well, and we do. And so there's much about skill acquisition and application and practice in that way that we feel, for a law track in the liberal arts and sciences program, we do quite a nice job of giving students actually this practical, applied approach too.
Right. And you mentioned law within liberal arts. It is, of course, not just law that students will be studying here. So what kind of combinations do you see that students make?
I think the most natural that we would assume is there is law and politics.
Sure.
So there are a lot of students who have as their 2 tracks, a track in law and a track in politics, and they fill in most of their social science coursework in those 2 tracks. Increasingly though, we do see a good combination of law and psychology, law and economics, and perhaps the one area that I see growing the most is either sociology and anthropology. So socio-legal research, legal anthropology research, students are combining these now more than ever. And once in a while, it does happen where we get good combinations from outside of the social sciences department. So recently, well, I do see a lot of science students, maybe minor in law, but I've also experienced supervising students in their senior project, where it's about law or environmental law as it relates to ecology. And so this would be a student in ecology and law, and they write their senior project in both. So I guess law pairs well with many, but I would say politics, economics, and also some of the social sciences. It's quite diverse.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, yeah, so many of the things in society nowadays have obviously a legal component, so it makes sense, to me at least, for a student interested in environmental issues to take at least a little bit of consideration of that type of field as well. Now, these students are here with us for 3 years. They do their senior projects and then they move on. So what do you see for graduates of a program like ours and then with a specialization in law? Where do they go? Where do they end up?
One of the things that I find from my experience here at UCR is that students who end up pursuing a legal career after UCR, many of them didn't anticipate that.
Right.
And when they come and they start taking this variety of courses as part of the liberal arts program, they discover something that they like about the law. And they come up with then a kind of a unique problem, and that is that the Bachelor of Arts that they would finish with here doesn't prepare them, doesn't qualify them to continue in a strictly legal profession. And so we do have kind of 2 categories, or maybe 3 categories of students that graduate in the law track. The one category is a student who's combined it with a different track and is going to use it in a master's program and career that only maybe touches or intersects with law. And those students go on to very interesting master's programs. Often it's policy or governance, maybe human rights as a broader issue. That law is just one part of that, as well as economics. We've had students go into master's in economics programs with economics and law as their combination. So that's one category, students who move on to other master's programs that only show that there was a relationship or a connection to law. The second category of students are those who, after 3 years, do go on to a legal master's program, but not one that qualifies them to practice law. There are many LLMs, so-called Masters of Law programs, where students are able to specialize in the study and research of a particular field of law, international law, environmental law, criminal law. And they are well prepared already from UCR to go to these master's programs, which will lead to careers either in research or advising or advocacy. And so many of the LLMs for non-certified lawyers are totally suitable for our graduates, and many follow those. And as I mentioned, criminology and criminal law seems to be a growing field, but we do see also a lot of students who are going into fields that deal with private law, deal with governance, constitutional law. And so a lot of those students wind up in government positions, or they have organizations, either NGOs or IGOs, and they're able to then transfer those skills from their liberal arts studies very well. So far those 2 categories, some who find a career that somehow uses some legal connection, while other students really squarely head for a legal master's program. The third category of alumni that we have, or graduates that we have, are those who choose or want to choose an actual law profession where they become lawyers or judges. And that has proven difficult in the past with a Bachelor of Arts in the Dutch legal education system. And so we have introduced a pilot program, a 4-year dual degree in law and liberal arts. And this combines then 3 years at UCR with 1 year at Utrecht University, after which then the students have both the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Law. And we have our first few cohorts developing, and just now our first cohort's really going to graduate from Utrecht. And so that's an exciting development for us as well. So really students can go from here to eventually practicing law as a lawyer or a judge. Or they find other very interesting careers advising or working with a company or government organization, or just simply doing something where their legal knowledge is informative of what they do.
Right. So a very big scope of different opportunities, I would say. Just one final question about the double degree, just for clarification purposes. The course that they do in Utrecht, that's a Dutch taught course, isn't it?
It is, indeed. That's definitely important for managing expectations of students. I would also say that the double degree in law and liberal arts isn't for everyone, because it's going to really emphasize the liberal arts study. So first and foremost, I think, even as a law instructor, as coordinator of the law track, I do want to attract students to UCR who are drawn to liberal arts and sciences. And if that happens to include an emphasis in law and they want to continue with the double degree, I'm all for it. But for expectations, I think, first of all, it is only for Dutch students that they could continue with the 4th year at Utrecht. But also, I would say that a student coming here who has their eyes set on law, as a profession, as a certified lawyer, should also consider the options of whether they want to do a regular Bachelor's of Law program, or whether the liberal arts and science really calls them and they say, I want this experience, then this is perfect, because you get the best of both worlds in 4 years.
Exactly. But I think that expectation management is really important. But yes, as you said, lots of different opportunities for students, lots of different future roles that they can get into. So thank you so much for the introduction and sort of sharing a little bit of your expertise on the law track at UCR.
My pleasure.
All right.
Yep.